All right, that was December 24th, the first song off of Anywhere But Here, the Nyck Caution album. And if you were listening to the words, you could obviously hear that that was a very personal song. And Nick, that was about your dad, who I had the pleasure of meeting a few times at SOBs. I think he was at Joey's release party as well. And he was quite a fixture. So tell us about your dad and about the process since losing him and making that song right there.
Yeah, so, you know, even as a kid, I always wanted to be honest with my music. And, you know, in the early days of Pro Era, I feel like it was more about like getting bars off. And, you know, that was kind of like our shtick and having a good verse, like a fire rap verse. And, you know, going through different trauma and stuff, my style has changed over the years. And I like to just tell stories that could be relatable and people could, you know, resonate with. So, you know, like you met my dad. A lot of people met my dad from back in the day. And when I started doing music, he just became like a big champion of my sound. And, you know, I lived with him. We had problems back in the day. He, you know, was battling with addiction. And, you know, my mom held down the family for a while. And, you know, she did a lot. But when I started really getting into music, you know, she had to move to Florida to take care of her mother, who was suffering from Alzheimer's. And I moved in with my dad. And like those 2-3 years was when things really started picking up. And he was just like in my corner, you know, like I'd send him songs and he'd give me reviews on the song and, you know, things to change, things he loves. So like he was just a big part of all my stuff. So when I wrote the song, it was on his birthday, but years after, which is also the day that Steez passed away. So that day is just like it's just a crazy day. And even when Steez passed, my dad was like the first person that I was talking to. Like I came home and, you know, he was there. So I just want to be honest in my music. I know I'm not the only person to go through some traumatic shit. And, you know, other people might not share the same story, but I just think they could resonate with an honest story of something that can change your life.
How sudden was your dad's passing?
So my dad, when he was a kid, he was like sick as a kid. He had a bunch of problems. He got like one of his kidneys removed when he was younger, and he had something like in his heart. It's like his coarctic aorta. I always forget the exact term, and he had like a valve put around one of the like big aortas or the big veins, and that was in like the 60s or the, you know, like the early 60s. So 50 years later, it was starting to like, you know, disintegrate. And they did a surgery, which was like a dangerous surgery to replace it. I was in Australia when it happened. And, you know, it was crazy. Like I spoke to him before he went into surgery. And I feel like he was kind of saying bye to me because he was nervous. But he went through, like the surgery was successful. So then I came home and, you know, he was going through like the rehab and, you know, he wasn't in great shape. And then I went back on tour and we were in Philly and I came home to like surprise him because, you know, Philly's an hour and a half away. We had a day off and then we were going like to Boston or something. And he wasn't answering me all day. And I pulled up at the house and like my mom, I didn't really tell her I was going to surprise him. And like on the way home, she told me that like, you know, he's, you know, he passed. And I was like in shock. I kind of didn't want to believe it because he wasn't answering me. She was telling me like the cops are there, but she wasn't letting me know. And then she told me like when I was like 20 minutes away, and I went to the house and like I opened the door or I knocked on the door. It was locked. Fucking 2 cops let me in, and you know I seen the whole thing unfold, and it was just like a crazy experience. And instead of me trying to like, you know, never talk about it, which I didn't like to talk about it too much.
What year was this, by the way, Nick?
This was 2015. I just wanted to put it in music, you know. That was my way of coping, and like that's my way of dealing with grief, and it helped me a lot.
It's pretty crazy as you get older, the things that happen in our lives and how much they shape us. Like I can't believe that was 2015 already. Because I just, and what year did Steez pass?
2012. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy, and it really sucks as you get older how much your life kind of also gets defined by the loss of other people's lives,
For
and
sure.
how and finding ways to turn that positive. I think is sort of the key to having a good life, because the bad things are happening. There's just, if you make it a long time,
Yeah.
bad thing. If ironically, if you get to live a good life and a long life, you are
Yeah.
going to suffer through a lot of loss.
100%. 100%. And if you don't, God willing, if you don't, if that stuff does start happening to you when you're older, like in your 30s, 40s, 50s, it's like, I feel like you might not know how to deal with it. So doing it at a younger age, like obviously it's no one wants to deal with that shit, but like unfortunately I've dealt with loss at a young age. Even before Sleaze, I lost one of my best friends in 8th grade. He had like HPV and it was this whole thing and he passed away. And that was like my first experience with someone really close to me dying. And, it was something that I always was like told and something that was like a theme. It's like when someone close to you passes away, you gotta just go harder for them. You gotta live. You gotta have like their memory live on through you.
Well, rest in peace to your pops, man. He was a good man.
Yeah.
And you feel his presence deeply on this album. Pick another joint you want us to play for the people. Let's switch it up. What else you want to play for the people right now?
Let's play Motion Sickness. I feel like that's a good change of pace. I didn't want to stay sad in this album. The first two songs are me like addressing the issue, and then I feel like Motion Sickness really picks up the album and uplifts.
All right, let's do that. This is Motion Sickness, Nyck Caution, Anywhere But Here. It's out right now. It's Real Late with Peter Rosenberg, Hot 97. Nick, I was looking at the Spotify plays the other day. It looks like people are streaming this joint, man. How much have you, like, how has life been living off of streams for Nyck Caution?
I mean, it's been, it's tough just because of like label situations. I've been through a lot of just back and forth with things, and
Nick was getting cat fur out of his mouth. I need to be clear for everyone.
I got cat fur all over. Hey, this is my son.
There you go. What's his name?
Jeffrey.
Young Jeffrey.
Actually, the origin was Jeff Hardy because he's one of my favorite wrestlers ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't sure if I wanted to name him like a human name like that, but Jeff was the filler name. And then I called the vet to make his first appointment, and they were like, it was literally like 21 Jump Street. They're like, all right, what's the pet's name? And I was like, Jeff. I was like, his name's Jeff. And it just stuck. I was like, he got it.
Now he's Jeff. I knew he'd be named after a wrestler. That was a sure bet. All right. So you were saying though, with labels, things can be complicated.
Yeah. So like things are complicated, and like being part of a crew and having loyalty to your foundation, things just get murky. And streaming like, to be completely transparent, streaming money is not the best. Like my streaming numbers aren't crazy now. It's going up more, but
because of the album, because you have a full project out.
I got a full project, and it was like just having, like, I was independent, but I wasn't like fully able to do what I wanted to do because I still had to go through certain people to get stuff out. So now I just think consistency is the main thing. Like you got to just be consistent. Like I just dropped the album of music I've had for years, and it's streaming well, but I don't want to just stop here. I got to keep going with it. And I just released my first website with my first personal shop. Like I have a lot of things. I'm taking way more accountability for stuff, and I have a lot more control moving forward. So yeah, like the rest of the year is just looking like more consistency. And
so do you guys all at this point, does everyone Pro Era put out their stuff on their own?
Moving forward, yeah.
Yeah. So you guys are a crew, but everyone has their own individual situations now and just works on their own.
That's what is like before. Like this album is not that case because we, there was a Pro Era label and we had a distribution deal, things like that. But moving forward, I just think, it's an independent, like individual type of thing. And I think it makes more sense for, I'm like I said, I'm a 27. I gotta pay the bills. I don't do it for the money, but the money has to come in.
No, exactly. And also it removes a certain level of pressure off the relationships too, where like you guys can all continuously jump on each other's records and do favors for everyone, but everyone can just be getting their own off their own, you know?
And even like I was talking to Eric about it, like this month, like Eric dropped the EP, Eric the Architect from the Zombies, Savior from Underachievers dropped a project. Chuck dropped a like. There's just more activity going on when everyone can move on their own accord. And I feel like in 2021, I could drop an album one week, and if Joey or Kirk wants to drop an album the next week, I don't think it takes away. I think like people will listen to both.
Yeah, well, I think that's one of the things we're learning, and it takes a little bit of time though, is about like, the level of material that people are able to consume. Like,
Yeah.
some of the people I know who did really well in this last year, like I mentioned him a lot and I play him a lot. My first single off my project is featuring him, but like Flea Lord had a huge year last year. He dropped 12 projects.
That's what I'm saying though. It's like,
and he did great, and he ended up getting a great publishing. Like, he was able to make moves because the amount of work is so constant. And when people are then living in your space, and streaming your music, they're constantly being recommended more music. It's just a different thing to adjust to versus what we grew up on, where it's like one release means a lot and then you wait for the next release.
100%. And like even talking with Eric, I'm just learning more about the game. And he was telling me, I guess he heard it through whatever his sources are, but like if you're not consistent on Spotify or one of the things, you kind of get punished. Like you don't get put into these algorithms. You like if you're doing stuff a lot, there's more opportunities to get playlists. Like if you drop a song or an album 2 years later, you kind of don't get the same things you would if you're being more consistent. And just being like an active recording artist, I have so much music that just lives on my computer. And
right.
And in this day and age, like I might not have to shoot a music video for every single thing. So making these bodies of works where I could have like a dope fucking Meech feature with like ASAP Ferg or like whatever the combo is.
Right.
They just need to come out and people listen to it.
And that's a new thing to adjust to too. Actually, it's funny you mentioned him. Ferg is the perfect example of someone who figured it out and was like, oh, okay, this is how this works. Ferg has albums that are meaningful and they mean something. But then he has other projects that he's just put out that are filled with singles he's been dropping. And some of his biggest records, I don't even remember which thing they came off of, but they just popped. Like that one happened to pop.
And that's the thing. It's like back in the day, I feel like people would call you like a single artist or an album artist, but now you could be both. Like you could have the singles and the album, and like the single could be on this playlist that blows up, and like no one, like everyone just listens to everything. People will listen to like if Peter Rosenberg was an artist and you had 4 albums out this year, there might be a playlist of like just the top streaming songs of all the 4, and that's what the people are listening to.
And by the way, that's literally like I was talking to my girl the other day about it because I'm dropping an album this spring. Yeah. The first single comes out Friday, and I was kind of talking about the goal of it. I'm like, the goal is really just over time, to have, when you search my name on Spotify, there's a couple hundred songs that are all in my lane and people like all that stuff, and it streams over the years past when my radio show is going. These songs live on, and after a certain amount of time, and I'm sure you've had the same feeling, you've done enough stuff for so many people, you're like, oh, I got to put out my own thing and have it come back to me down the line too.
Exactly. Because like another thing I'll touch on too, it's like, I dropped The Sky's the Limit, which was like my solo debut in 2016. And when I think about it, it's like, that was like 5 years ago. I can't be doing shit like that. And in the interim of that, we did Nick at Night, which did well, but still it's like,
that was you and Kirk Knight.
That's me and Kirk Knight. And that's like, it's 2 of us, but it's still not me. And then the Beast Coast album, which is not me, like that stuff I'm investing my time into, which I'm glad, but there's got to be a balance of.
Well, yeah, when you guys are doing projects together and you're all getting your pieces, it just can't be that much. There's just too many people. And then, but when you're going through a label, by the time you get it, it's at the end of the day, I think in these situations, it benefits everybody to have your own,
100%.
Unless you were straight up, like if you and Kirk were a group, the 2 of you, and it was year after year after year, that was all you were doing, you could figure that out.
For sure.
But if that's not what you're doing, it's kind of complicated over a long, at least in terms of getting a lot of, guap from it. But by the way, man, you have to be so proud. Everyone has done so well. Like, Kirk has really become his own star. Chuck Stranger's project is dope, and he's really developed into a star. Like, everyone it seems like everybody's comfortable in different places. And everyone is sort of like, I remember the first time I met Chuck and he was doing beats. This was years ago. He had just started, and now he's a really formidable, underground artist.
And like with Chuck too, it's great because he's getting placements or getting beats with like Rock Marcy and other, dope rappers, and like it doesn't have to be just pro era shit. I feel like that was kind of our headspace in the earlier days. It's like and as it should be, like you want to build your brand up in the early days, but now that we're older, more mature, and like, you know, we're not the only rappers in the world. Like there's other good rappers. Like I have a song with Denzel Curry. I love Denzel Curry. Like that works for me. So everybody just has their own niche, and I feel like everyone just is tapping into it more and more.
All right, before I let you go, and that you go stream that Nyck album right now. Support great New York hip hop, anywhere but here, streaming everywhere. Who do you first of all, who do you think is going to win the men and women's Royal Rumble? Do you have any thoughts?
Oh man, you know what? I haven't been watching as much wrestling lately. I've been like a little tuned out of it, but what's like, is Roman Reigns like, is this what's his whole situation right now?
Yo, Roman Reigns is the best thing. So it's been a weird few months. It's been a weird year. I mean, wrestling without fans is tough. And, you know, WWE, they did a great job creating the Thunderdome. It's much better than it was when there was nothing there. But no one would ever argue this is what it's like with fans either. Like it's in the middle. It was trash with no one. And now it's cool. Now it's cool. But like it's still, the Rumble's gonna be very interesting to not have fans there.
I think Roman's heel turn is like one of the best things in years of wrestling.
It's the Roman heel turn. My only regret would be is if we don't get it in front of fans for a while too.
Oh, I know.
Because he's doing bad guy Roman is so fun to me. I love it.
Better. That's who he should be. And I know when I was like doing my research on him, when he was in NXT, he had like the heel like suit gimmick, and he's just like, I'm better than you. Like that was his whole shit. I love heel Roman. I don't know, like I haven't been watching as much, but I kind of feel like Jey Uso might find a way to win, and then like he won't end up fighting Roman. And I don't know if The Rock is still in talks to fight Roman.
Well, now Jey is under Roman.
I know he's under Roman.
So
but
you mean that at some point they go up against each other?
Like I feel like he might win, and then it's just like a whole arc. It's like, you know, you can't fight me, and it's like, and then like maybe he relinquishes the thing, and then I want The Rock and Roman to fight at WrestleMania for the head of the table. Like I think that is where
that would be amazing.
I don't know if they could get The Rock, but I don't know. Maybe
that's what people think. People think that's out there. I don't know if it will be this year or next year, but I had Jey Uso on my Cheap Heat podcast, and I pitched him the idea. I was like, yo, The Rock versus Roman, and you on the undercard versus your brother would be fun.
That would be crazy. Because I think they're also becoming more prevalent solo stars right now. Like he could hold he's great in the ring by himself. They were great as a duo, but Jey, everything he's been doing, I love it. He's really,
a lot of times wrestling's like rap. Sometimes, you know, you have that right moment with the star and you can come away with it from that situation. Some people come away and they're forever like the underling, and some people come away being like, no, I'm a star now in my own right. You know what I mean?
It's like back in the day, one of the examples I always bring up is when Evolution started. I always thought Randy Orton was just like cool. He was like, you know, he looked good. He had the good moves. And then when they gave him the push and he beat like Chris Benoit clean, like he really took that step. He was behind Triple H and Ric Flair. You know, like you could, if you just do the right shit, or if you get booked the right way, you could just become a star.
Hey, life is all about getting booked the right way. You know what I'm saying? Ladies and gentlemen, his name is Nyck Caution. The album is called Anywhere But Here. It's it's a thoughtful, personal, and also just dope album. So I wanted to get you up here, man. Congratulations. You know, you're always welcome up here, and wanted to support the project. But glad you're doing well, man, and appreciate you coming by.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that, Rosenberg.
Anytime. Yo, Jeff the Cat, what's good, my G?
It was good, bro. Yo, let me get on the tape.
Yo, chill, Jeff. Chill. Yo, it's real late, Hot 97.